and welcome again to Ideas at Work and Beyond. We have an exciting show for you this evening. Right in this studio, we have a man, if you even drive through the town of Ridgefield, you will see this man's name on literally 90% of the lawns. I'm talking about probate judge, a beloved member of the Ridgefield community, a pillar of the community. Probate Judge Joe Egan is joining us this evening right here on the studio. We're excited to have him. We're going to hear all about what it means to be a probate judge, where he's from, why he's running, why he needs to run for election this time, and the whole thing. Before we get to that, I just want to say a word. I'm trying to be positive. You know, this economy is hurting, and I need to look for the silver lining. My counselor says I need to not be so negative all the time. But you know, I see John Kerry, a member of the People's Party, you know, the blue-collar Democratic Party, the party that's looking out for you, the little guy. And here he is with his $8 million yacht that he decides that he's not going to dock in Massachusetts because that would cost him $500,000 in taxes. So he kind of sneaks it over to Rhode Island, where he doesn't have to pay as high of tax. And you know what? The yacht, it was built in New Zealand. I mean, I've seen this thing on TV. It's a beautiful thing. So John Kerry's yacht, there you have that. Then you have Bill and Hillary Clinton. They've done very well for themselves. I don't know if they've ever really met a payroll in their life. It's always been kind of like government jobs and then counseling afterwards. $3 million wedding. You know, look, I wish Chelsea and the bride or the groom all the luck in the world, many healthy children and everything else. But $3 million, this is the party of the people. The little guy looking out for you. They're going to get those dastardly rich people and tax them to high heaven so that you, the little guy, can feel better about things. And then what else do we have going on as far as that goes? We have Barack Obama on The View. You know, Al, we've invited Barack Obama here, haven't we?
Hey, he'd love to talk to you.
I think we've invited Barack Obama. We've had.
You invited the caribou right there.
We have the caribou comes in, but you have to shoot him first, and that's the only way you get the caribou in. But we invited Barack Obama. I'm still waiting for that phone call to get back. I'm going to check my emails because we sent an email. He doesn't come on this show. But there he is on The View, and all kidding aside, there's a lot of stuff going on, but the Democrats are sailing in their yachts and having their $3 million weddings and everything else, and we wish them all the luck in the world, but if they're not too busy, they might want to focus on the economy. But here's the good part, because, you know, it's not all bad. I was reading in the Danbury News-Times that the unemployment here in Fairfield County is actually beginning to improve a little bit. The unemployment rate here in Fairfield County is going down just a little bit. Jobs were added here in Connecticut. Now, it may have been, if you were watching the show last week, our beloved Governor Jody Rell is whining and dining some big investment banking firm from New York, trying to get them to come over to shelter them for some of the, it's hard to believe, but even New York, the taxes are more, they were higher in New York than they are here. So she was trying to bring them over. And so we're seeing a little bit of the employment getting a little bit better. And this is a big thing. The hole in the Gulf of Mexico has been plugged. And lo and behold, nature seems to be eating up a lot of this oil, and it looks like it's going to be okay. Knock on wood. I don't know where that comes from, but knock on wood. So the oil has been plugged. Jobs seem to be turning the corner a little bit. November's coming when elections will be held, and it looks like this thing might be turning around. So stay tuned. Next week, we have an exciting show. We have the debate with the 5th Congressional Districts. Those are Sam Caligari, Justin Bernier, and Mark Greenberg. You may have heard them on the radio yesterday. They were on 1320 out of Waterbury. They're having another debate. And these guys are getting angry. They're getting ripe. They're getting pretty upset with each other. So it should be pretty interesting. Al, are we going to have bouncers for the show next Thursday? There will be bouncers. There will be security. So this should be good. You can call in with your questions. So tune in next week. We're going to have that live debate. But without any further ado, it is my distinct privilege. Oh, one last thing. after we talk to the judge, we're having this this little footage from some mountain climbing in the Swiss Alps, and you'll want to see this because it's very, very interesting. If you want to see me get dissed by mountain guides in the Swiss Alps, stay tuned for that. So don't zone out or don't go to Jersey Shore or anything else. You stay right here. But without any further ado, Joe.
Marty, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for sitting through that rant. This is just an outlet for me, really.
It's quite an introduction to probate.
It is an introduction. We're going from a vast, you know, from $8 million yachts. Do you have a boat at all?
I don't have a boat.
You don't have a boat. You're a Republican, though, right?
I'm a Republican, but
Okay.
I don't have a boat.
You don't have a boat. You don't have to worry about docking it in the right place or anything like that.
No, none of those problems.
Okay. Well, all kidding aside, I see your name on every lawn in the town of Ridgefield. You are, when I told people that you were going to be on my show, everybody loves you. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think it's just trying to be myself. You know, I grew up in Ridgefield, and of course, as a result, I know a lot of people. But of course, the key is what I have to convince people of in this campaign is that I'm not going to be good for Ridgefield, I'm going to be good for the entire district. Because my pledge has always been to just treat people the way they like to be treated, the way they should be treated. And that's what I really plan on doing. Obviously, you have to know the law and you have to apply the law properly. Right. But the real thing is when someone comes into probate court, they're a little nervous, they're a little anxious. It's the last place in the world they want to be, and you just got to set them at ease.
Okay. So now, just so I'm clear, this is, how often do you have to run for re-election for probate judge?
Probate, you run every 4 years. You run when the governor runs, same cycle.
So every 4 years, but in the previous elections, you've just basically had to get the electorate in Ridgefield who know you and love you, and that's where the election. This time, for the first time, we're adding Bethel, Reading, and Newtown. Is that right?
That's right.
And how did that come about?
Yeah, the reason it came about is that, well, like everything else in the state, it has to do with money. The feeling is that if the courts were to consolidate, there'll be a substantial savings in judicial salaries and basically insurance. The number I heard was about $4 million will be saved.
Statewide?
Statewide.
Okay.
Now, this isn't something that just came about. Court consolidation, from the probate point of view, has been talked about really for, I would say, 12, 13, 14 years. What happened, though, is that the judges probably could have been, should have been a little more proactive and maybe gotten a little different plan on the table. But everybody is reluctant, naturally, to vote themselves out of a job.
Right.
So nothing ever really happened. And then, let's say last year, the governor basically said, we're going to have 44 to 50 probate courts in the state of Connecticut. Once she said that, everything started moving very fast. We had meetings. Representative Godfrey from Danbury was spearheading a plan, and the plan that was approved isn't exactly the plan that he was initially spearheading, but it was the same idea. It was a consolidation. So what happened is that, again, the governor said 44 to 50 courts. The probate assembly, which is the group of all the probate judges in the state, met, and we came up with a plan that had 50 courts, and somehow when the process ended, it ended up with 54 courts. But it's quite a dramatic change. In Connecticut right now, as I'm talking to you, we have 117 courts.
Wow, so you're going from 117 to 54.
There'll be 54 standing come January 4th of next year.
Now, do you get paid for this job?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
And does your pay quadruple since you're adding 3 more towns, or not really?
No, it actually doesn't. Matter of fact, one of the things that I agree with the new consolidation is the way they're going to do the funding for judges and for clerks. Right now, and when I speak to people on a national level, they don't believe this, but right now, with the exception of the maximum courts in Connecticut, which are like Hartford, New Haven, the big courts, every judge in the state makes a different salary than the judge next door. We're basically running a sole proprietorship where the fees come into the court. We pay our salaries of our clerk. We pay various expenses of the court. X amount of dollars goes to the probate administration fund in Hartford, and then the judge keeps what's left over. Under the new plan, which I think makes a lot more sense, we're not going to be responsible for handling the money anymore. The fees that will come into the court will be deposited in a centralized bank, go to Hartford. The judges will be on salary, the clerks will be on salary. Makes a lot more sense, really.
But I mean, essentially, we are seeing, you know, the state government sort of slim down a little bit in this way. Their savings, you said you quantified it as $4 million.
That's what I've read.
In that sense, it's a good thing. You know, we're doing all right. You might be a little overworked, but that's not a bad thing. Okay, so now you know everyone in Ridgefield. You, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you in Bethel and Newtown, this is a very, very beloved man in the town of Ridgefield. He's recognized for his honesty. He's recognized as just a contributor to the community, and he's really great. And you, too, would love him if he was your probate judge. But now your challenge right now is to try to get to know some of these people in these other towns. And how has that been going?
I think it was going pretty well. We've been campaigning as you would normally campaign. There is a...
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Caller, you're on the air. Go right ahead. I apologize. Yeah, it's a show by a guy who owns a horse. Yes, it is. Other than my equestrian, what else do you want to know about?
I just wanted to make sure you're making fun of people with boats and stuff. I don't know how many Republicans or people in the area actually own a horse.
Yes, it is true. I have a horse, and I paid $1,000 for the horse, and I board the horse in the state of Connecticut. Are there horse taxes, by the way?
I don't know.
If there are, I'll pay them. I have a judge here.
My question is, look, for a lot of people who don't even understand what probate court is, can you briefly explain what a probate court is and how it's different from, I don't know, juvenile court or regular criminal court or whatever? Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the call. The question was, can you explain what a probate court is as opposed to like a criminal court or something like that?
Well, you know, that's a very good question, because when I came to the studio tonight, one of the fellows said, "You're not going to put me in jail, are you?" And I said, "No, we don't do that stuff." Basically, the basic definition of probate, I would say, is the administration of a decedent's estate. So when someone dies, a will is probated in the court, or if there's no will, administration takes place. But to say that's all that probate is would be a real or understatement, right, because we also handle adoptions, both identified adoptions and step-parent adoptions. We do guardianships for minors. Occasionally a minor will inherit some money, and we supervise that until the minor reaches majority. We do conservators, which is the situation where it's actually not necessarily an elderly person, right, but more often than not an elderly person becomes incapable of taking care of themselves. Right. So what we do is we appoint somebody to do that for them. And we do things as straightforward as a name change. You want your name change, you come to the probate court, and we'll do it for you.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it since September of 1990. Almost 20 years.
20 years. Okay, so in that 20 years, give me your top, like the most satisfying, the most fulfilling cases that you deal with, and what are the most contentious and difficult, and you come away from it feeling like, oh, that wasn't good?
Well, the most satisfying things we do, in my opinion, are adoptions. Okay. Because when you have your own children, you don't realize how important an adoption is. I didn't realize it till I get into the probate court. Right. And the very first adoption I did, for one thing, both sets of grandparents were in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. They had the cameras ready to go. Mm-hmm. They actually had chocolate cigars. I don't know if they still make those anymore, but they had chocolate cigars to give out. And you really appreciate what these people had to go through to adopt a child, and how great they feel when it's over. Right. So, and when they feel good, you feel good. Right. So that's definitely, I think, the best thing that we do. Unifying families, establishing a family, exactly, putting a child in a loving, nurturing home that they know that they're going to... Exactly. It just makes you feel great. The worst thing we do is just the opposite. Mom or dad dies, and let's say one child doesn't get as much as the others, or is cut out entirely. Ouch. Then you see the siblings at their worst. Wow. So are you there at the reading of the will and things like that? I mean, I'm maybe putting a Hollywood spin on it, but is there a little of that? A little bit. We don't actually read the will. Okay. But normally what will happen is that they know what the will says before it ever gets to probate. Okay. So we'll hold a hearing to determine whether the will should be admitted or not. Mm-hmm. And actually, since 1998, we've had a procedure called streamlining. And basically what that is that the parties in interest get notice, and if they don't object to what's going to happen, then we just issue an order. But when they're going to object, we know it. Yeah. And on a will contest, it really can hit the fan sometimes.
Wow.
In my mind, a will contest is the closest thing you can get to a divorce, because instead of husband versus wife, it's brother against sister, sister against sister,
Wow.
you know, brother against brother. So it's still that same emotional outbreak that
and
you
you
get.
have to decide. You have to, you know, interpret the will, see what the intent of the will is, and make a decision.
It's not even necessarily the intent of the will, but just to determine whether the will is valid or not. You know, the person making the will has already spoken as to what he or she wants to have done.
Right.
We just have to determine, is that will valid? Was it written up without undue influence, fraud, and so on?
All right. Okay. Now, I just want to go through a little bit of your history and stuff like that. You moved to Ridgefield when you were.
I moved to Ridgefield in 1956. I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not really a native by.
Well, I've come to learn you're not a native of Ridgefield if you're anything short of a fourth-generation person in Ridgefield. That's been my...
My mother-in-law is 94, so she's a native, but I'm not a native.
Okay, okay. And then where you went to school?
I went to local schools. I went to St. Mary's Grammar School, which... I kid some of the kids that I coached Little League, and I said I went to the real St. Mary's back in 1956 and 57. But I went to St. Mary's, I went to high school at Fairfield Prep, college at St. Peter's in Jersey City, New Jersey. Okay. And then I went on to law school at Fordham, which is the law school is down at Lincoln Center.
Okay. And then you practice law. You have and you still practice law, right?
Yes. I came... when I was in law school, for the first 2 years, I always kind of assumed I was going to stay in New York City. And then after my second year, I realized I'd like to come back to Connecticut. So I came back to Ridgefield, worked for about 2.5 years with a fellow by the name of Ed Dowling, who, quite a character. A lot of the local attorneys will remember Ed. And he was also a former probate judge. At the time, I believe he was the youngest elected probate judge in the state at age 29. And I believe Judge Yeaman from Danbury may have beat him out on that. But I worked for Ed for about 2.5 years, and then opened up my own practice in I think it was January of 1974, and been on my own since. Okay,
and then what has your practice been, what have you majored in your practice of law? What has it been?
I've actually, over the years, pretty much streamlined it. When I first started, especially when I worked for Ed Dowling, we did a lot of what was then called circuit court work, a lot of criminal work, cases like that. Right. When I left Ed, I started getting more into real estate and probate work. And I would say from the 10th year of my practice on, it's basically real estate and probate. Okay.
Married? Kids? How many?
Married. I am married. I've been married to Aileen Leary. Her maiden name was Leary. You may know some of the Learys in Ridgefield.
Okay, that's another big name, yeah.
Been married for 41 years, have 2 children, Patrick, who's an attorney up in Boston, and Sean, who's a commodities trader down in New York City.
Okay, and grandkids?
3 grandchildren, 6-year-old twins, Jack and Maddie, and a 3-year-old boy, Brendan.
All right, so now I'm sitting in my house in Bethel, Connecticut. I understand that there's an election coming. This is going to be on August 10th. Right?
August 10th primary.
August 10th. So it's the primary election, and I have a vague idea what the probate judge does. I know you're going to be on the ballot. You know, I mean, when you come down, you have to decide on Linda McMahon or Rob Simmons. That's like a high-profile, race. But come down to the probate judge. There's you and a couple other guys. What is it about you that you think separates you from the other candidates and makes you what will be the best probate judge for? I think you're going to win Ridgefield, but for Bethel, Reading, and Newtown.
Well, what I would like to think is that qualifications and experience really do matter, because this really isn't a political position, except for the fact that you've got to get elected.
Yeah, it is interesting that way. Is it better if it was appointed, or do you think being held accountable to the people every 4 years is a good thing?
There are arguments both ways for that. 39, I did a little research, 39 out of the 50 states elect judges of one form or another. Okay. So, most states do have elected judges. It's a little difficult in our situation because it's the first time in Connecticut history, to any great extent anyway, that we've had sitting judges running against sitting judges. Right. So I'm running against people that I've known for quite some time. And so it's a little different than the normal political race. But that's why I say I think qualifications and experience really should matter. In my case, I didn't just become a probate judge one day. I practiced law for 20 years before becoming a judge, and most of that time I did do probate work. Matter of fact, back in those days, I was the attorney that Judge Petroni at the time would go to in Ridgefield to do his pro bono work when he needed it. I never said no to Judge Petroni or his clerk, Marie Hertzler. I don't know if you remember Marie.
No.
But if they asked me to take a case, I would take it. It didn't matter if I was getting paid or not. So I had 20 years of experience before I ever was elected to the probate bench. And of course, for the last almost 20 years, I've been on the bench, and I've also gotten involved in other things, which I think are important. I think the more you expand your horizons, the better it is for you. I've been on the board of the State Probate Assembly, the Executive Committee. I also, at the urging of Judge Burke from New Canaan, got on the involved with the National College of Probate Judges, which is the only organization in the country dedicated solely to probate law, the only judicial organization. And I was asked to run for the Executive Committee of that organization. I actually said no the first time, but then I decided to run, got on the executive committee, and eventually I kind of went up the chairs, and in November of 2007, which is probably professionally my greatest accomplishment, I was installed as the president of the National College of Probate Judges, being only the second judge from Connecticut ever to have been so honored. And to me, it really was an honor. Plus, it's gotten me to know people throughout the country, which, frankly, I wouldn't have happened sitting in my little court in Ridgefield.
Yeah. Do you like running for election, or are you kind of sweating it?
I like talking to people. I enjoy talking about probate and talking to people, but it is not what I would normally do. Although there's a misconception that I've never run contested before, and frankly, this is my 7th election. The first 3 I had in September of '90, a special election. I had a regular election, and then 4 years later I had another election. All of those were contested, and obviously we did a pretty good job because I'm still here. The last 3 elections I've had were uncontested.
But having it not just be Ridgefield, having it be extended, there's a little bit of unknown in there.
It's a little different. You know, I've been knocking on doors in Reading, a little bit in Bethel, knocking on doors in Reading, and you know, you have to realize that not everybody is going to be for you. But you just have to do your best and tell them, you know, here's my qualifications. They really are, I believe, the best of the 3. And let it go at that.
If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably if they want to give me a call right at my law office in Ridgefield. I don't want, make it clear, I don't want anybody calling the probate court because we're not allowed to campaign out of the probate court. There should be no calls to the probate court. And I do have a Facebook page. I must admit I'm relatively new to Facebook. My son set it up for me and did a great job.
So they can just Facebook you.
Facebook me and I'm on there.
Caller, you there? Caller, you there? All right, caller, call back. Well, Joe, I've known you for a couple of years now, at least. All I can tell you is that you are an incredibly well-respected man in the town of Ridgefield. I think you've done a wonderful job as a probate judge. I think you're just recognized as a responsible person. Caller, you there? Hello? Caller, you there?
We're here.
Yes, please. You have a question for Joe Egan?
For Judge Egan?
Yes.
I was just wondering, you know, I'm having a problem with the judicial system these days. You know, after watching it, take for example, with President Obama putting a moratorium on offshore drilling, then they bring it before, you know, the federal court of appeals. They say they rule in favor of the people instead of the suiting from the federal government. Could you please explain to me, is there a mockery being made of the judicial system today?
All right, that's a very good question. Let me put it to the judge. Thanks for the call. His question is, well, a couple things. He talked about putting a moratorium on offshore drilling, and then the courts addressed that. And most recently in Arizona, the Arizona legislature passed a law, and then it was overturned just today, I think it was, by the courts. And his question is are the courts too powerful in making a mockery of some of this?
Well, I don't think so.
Not something you deal with in probate.
In probate court, we don't deal with any of those issues. But I don't think the courts are too powerful. And there's always the right to appeal. You know, so the judge, like when I make a decision, obviously I believe it's the right decision.
Right.
But someone always has the right to take it to the next step. So I've never felt I've had too much power. So some of the cases we've heard, when you're dealing with right to die, right to live issues, it is a lot of power. But you've got to make the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our guest this evening has been Joe Egan. His office phone number is 438-9559. 9559. 438-9559. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to call him. I actually voted absentee, because I'll be out of town.
You told me you were going on vacation.
So I already voted for you. So you got one vote. So
thanks, I got one.
But he's just an incredibly honest and straightforward, and has a broad knowledge of his business, and I think we can't go wrong with having Joe Egan as the probate judge. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned. We're going to go to the Swiss Alps in just 1 minute, so don't you move. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Comcast Cable provides a professional television studio to the public, along with the equipment and training necessary to produce your very own TV show? And best of all, it's free. So what is public access? Public access is people sharing ideas.
People sharing information.
Sharing the environment.
Sharing music.
Sharing dreams.
Public access is people sharing education, art,
politics,
resources.
People sharing civic pride.
Public access is people sharing fun.
Public access, it's people, just like you and me.
For more information, contact your public access studio.
See you on TV.
Welcome back to Ideas at Work and Beyond. Joe Egan, you can't go wrong. He's on the ballot. Just vote for Joe Egan. If there's any problem with him, you call me. We'll take care of it. But he is a great guy. Now, since this is a very eclectic show, we do a lot of crazy stuff. We're going from probate judge to the top of the Swiss Alps. This was a little trip I went on last year. They insisted that I bring this camera, and I hope you enjoy the footage of some terrifying peaks that me and my 20-year-old son were on. So from here, we go to Zermatt, Switzerland. Ideas at Work and Beyond. We are here in the upper reaches of the Swiss Alps with our intrepid guide, Willie. Today is day one of our Zermatt adventure. The goal, the final destination, is the Matterhorn, which you can see rising out of the clouds. But today, we learn. Willie will show us how to rock climb on these walls, and if we pass the test, and we're able to do it, possibly Thursday, we're going to be climbing the Matterhorn. I'm here with my son Jason, who thinks this whole thing is a big kind of a joke. But we're very excited about this. So stay tuned to Ideas at Work and Beyond as we go on our quest. See you soon. We're here at the base of the Riffelhorn, outside of Zermatt, Switzerland. That peak, that dark peak, is the Monte Rosa. That's the tallest peak in Switzerland. Today is day one, and we're just getting roped in by our new best friend in the world
For today.
for today is Willie. And Willie will
middle, last.
show us how
If you don't mind. Okay.
to get up that cliff, which is essentially just practice for what we'll hopefully be doing later. It is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous up here, and we're taking you along on the adventure from the safety of the couch in your warm home in suburban Connecticut. Stay tuned. So we're on the rifle horn.
Ciao, ciao.
It's a little scary.
Okay, we're on the stick. Good. Off you go. you see that little piece of metal or that nail there?
Down into the abyss. Yeah, the morning, hey, this should be fun, has given way to, wow, this is kind of dangerous. Jason, any thoughts so far? We're halfway up the rifle horn.
Getting our money's worth.
Definitely getting our money's worth. That's our guide. And we got to follow him up that cliff. Sure is beautiful. You can see the glaciers that come down and leave those rocks, just like in the valleys of Connecticut. And part of me would really like to be back in Connecticut right now. Okay, boys and girls, here we are at the top of the rifle horn. It's kind of a good news, bad news scenario. Good news, we're at the top of the rifle horn.
Riffle horn.
Riffle horn. Bad news, we're still in the shadow of the mighty Matterhorn. We'll keep moving. Stay tuned. Okay, we're here with Jonas. He's also at the top of the rifle horn. Rifle horn.
Jesus Christ.
And you're from...
Stop. We have to start again.
Okay.
Rifle horn.
Rifle horn.
Okay.
Okay. Ready? Okay. We'll start again. Rifle horn.
Yeah.
Rifle horn. So you came from...
Norway.
Norway?
Oslo.
Oslo, Norway. You've been here since 1979. You come skiing every year. And this is Rudolph, your guy.
Yeah.
And Rudolph took you to the top of the Matterhorn.
Yes.
And Rudolph, how was this Norwegian? Was he hard? Did you have to carry him the last half?
No, he's stronger than me, so we're a good team.
Okay. The key to all these trips is to have a guide like Willie, who knows how to do it. He doesn't baby you. He keeps you moving. And then when he gets to the top of this thing, he has a Marlboro, which is a little unnerving. But this is the fun part when you made it to the top, and we'll keep going. Stay tuned.
Okay, there is Dad going down the mountain, going to a fixed rope, and there's about a 90% chance he can't pull himself up, and he's gone. So look at the Willie, and we got boards, so we look at the Matterhorn.
So that's the same feeling as you would have in a Matterhorn.
That's where we're going, apparently.
And watch always a bit down there. Do you see what your legs are doing?
We get the board, so we videotape me. Of course, in the sun.
Well, here we are up in the Swiss Alps. This is day one. I'll tell you, ideas of working beyond. This was definitely an idea, but I'll tell you, it's scary. I'm not going to let my guide know or my son know, but this stuff is scary. Here comes my son. I think an escalator would be easier. Zermatt is a beautiful town. See beautiful flowers. And as always, the Matterhorn looms over. We're on the main street of Zermatt. It's a very festive place. It's absolutely beautiful. See all the flower window boxes. This is the Zermatthof, one of the great big hotels in Zermatt. The Matterhorn is right around the corner. And this is the plaque to Edward Whymper, the first man to summit the Matterhorn in 1865. He went up, there was a party of 7, and 4 perished on the way down, adding to the mystique of the Matterhorn. Prior to 1865, they thought the Matterhorn could never be climbed, but this man on his 14th time climbed it. We're going to look at a museum that has the rope that broke that sent 4 of his party to their death. That's Edward Whymper, the first man to climb the Matterhorn. Stay tuned. We're eating lunch. We have the Breithorn tomorrow. It's going to be fun. For the trip here, we're staying in a youth hostel. It's kind of bare minimum, about all you need. This is our room. We were a little surprised when our 2 roommates included a fine young man and I believe his wife. So it's a bit cozy. What you gotta love about it is shutters at work and a view of the Matterhorn. We're just getting back to our room from climbing the Riftshorn.
You're horrible.
And need to recover. That was pretty scary. And especially climbing up those cliffs were a bit
on which mountain?
Unnerving. So we'll get back to you.
What is it called?
The Rifle Horn.
The Rifle Horn.
Rifle Horn. That was great.
Idiot.
Good morning. It's day 3. Today we conquered the Breithorn. It's another day to get acclimated to the altitude. Good night's rest. They have great bread here. And as usual, in its many different faces, the Matterhorn looms. Alright, we'll see you at the top, or at least on the way. Well, we're about 12,000 feet up on the Breithorn. This is climb number 2 in preparation for the Matterhorn. We've introduced a new element to the climb, and that is snow. It's about maybe, I would say, 25 degrees in the shade, probably about 30 degrees in the sun. Again, it's a breathtaking vista. And our new best friend in the world is Johnny.
Oh, thank you very much.
Johnny is our guide. You can see how he's putting on the crampons, which we'll get ready to do. And here we are. Ideas are working beyond. We go places. We see things. Stay tuned. We're on our way up. That's the type of climbing we've been doing. Look over some.
That's pretty nice.
Here we are on the top ridge of the Breithorn. These razor ridges take some getting used to. Stay tuned. We're here with Jonathan. We're in the saddle of the Breithorn. Jonathan, if you were going to give me an A, B, or C on my performance, what would you say?
Well, how I said, you know, for climbing the Matterhorn for tomorrow, you are not in a good shape. You are not in a good shape. It will be difficult. Yeah. So anyway, you can try tomorrow with a guide, and it's important to listen to the guide. As soon the guide he says, well, it's enough. Well, it will be anyway. It will be nice experience. May you are lucky that you arrive until halfway. Maybe halfway up. So nice experience. And then if the guide he says it's too much, then we because he takes care about your life. That's very important because on the way down, it's on the way down and then up.
Jonathan, my former guide for the Riffelhorn, he said my body looked a little bit like a bag of French fries from McDonald's. Is that what you mean by I'm not in good enough shape?
I can't I can't discuss. But you are not like French fries, not at all.
No.
No, that has nothing to do with that.
Think maybe like some sort of V, shape.
No. But I will tell. I'm the responsible here from the guide office.
Oh, okay.
And I will blame that guy.
No. Like listen, the truth hurts, and it's okay.
You are a good alpinist, but you have to understand. Here in the mountain, everything goes step by step. Go with a good experience back to the stage, and please come back. I'll give you my card, and then maybe next time you have.
Thank you very much. It's very scary, especially on the razor edge. 1,500 meters on each side. I liked it now that I'm on. Jason, his body is like one French fries, not a whole bag of French fries. All right, thank you very much. Well, we just got off the Breithorn. That was very, very frightening. We were on a ridge that you can't believe. One misstep, one slip of the boot as a result of snow, and you just. I mean, I suppose the rope would catch you, but still, it would be. It's very frightening, very frightening. So one guy thinks we're ready for the Matterhorn, the next one thinks maybe not. We're going to try. It's going to start this afternoon. We hike up to the Matterhorn Huta. We meet our guide, Benedict, and his associate. Spend the night in the Huta. Get up at 3 in the morning, put on a headlamp, and then we'll try and see. By the way, part of the charm of Zermatt is that there are no cars. No cars are allowed in the whole town. So it lends to an unbelievably quiet, small town. The bakeries are great. The beer isn't bad, and it's definitely worth coming and visiting. I hope you guys enjoy this kind of adventure travel. What Marty did on his summer vacation. It's exciting. Fact of the matter is, I've got a Thursday to fill every week. So when I went here into Belize, it seemed like, why not bring you guys along? Tomorrow morning, here we are at the Matterhorn Huta. This is the building over here. And you meet your guide. We're going to sit down to a meal of porridge, some sort of cabbage. Come this way.
No.
And in the morning, somewhere around 3 in the morning, someone's going to tap us on the shoulder, put on headlamp, and that's the final frontier. The air up here is very thin. Coming up from where we came up this last bit, just getting to the Huta was quite a hike. Now, we're going to eat dinner. They have some pretty strict rules here. It's 150 Swiss francs, which isn't cheap. That's about $150. But they do give you Nice pair of Crocs. So you take your mountain climbing boots off, and you get these Crocs. I'm pretty sure you got to return them. Okay. Anyways, this is the sleeping arrangements. Basically, you get assigned a part of a bed. 1, 2, 3, and there you have it. I don't mean to be, I don't know, closed-minded, but it is co-ed. Well, it's 4 in the morning. It's full moon out. People are wandering around in their headlamps. Getting ready to begin the ascent in the dark. There's a full moon silhouetting the Matterhorn. Down in the valley, you can see the little town of Zermatt. This is it.
Yeah.
Well, here I am, somewhere on the Matterhorn. Yesterday, a helicopter came up and took a dead body off this mountain. My guide, who's been up on the top 200 times,
yeah,
says I got to turn back around. So, I don't want to be the second guy pulled off this rock. I gave him my best shot. I got to turn back. I will say my 20-year-old son did pass me going up, so let's hope that he made it to the summit. Sorry I couldn't do any more. We're on our way down this somewhat treacherous pile of rock. Here we are, the beautiful Pomerod.
Look at the summit.
Pomerod. That was the goal. We returned back. But I'm here with Benedict. Benedict, we were just talking about the Matterhorn and what a dangerous mountain it is. We were saying that on a bad year, how many people will die on this mountain?
Yeah, between 12 and 20.
12 and 20.
We have the average.
And there was a guy from Austria, was it?
Yesterday there was a German who died.
German, wow. And how long have you been doing this for?
23 years now.
And how many times have you been to the summit?
Over 200.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I wish I had a view like this from my office. So we still have a ways to go to get down. And I'm glad you have me on that lifeline, so we're not number 2 for today. Thank you. There it is. This is one of those tight little ridges. You kind of choose your point. It's a long way down. I'm glad I got a guide. A little bummed I didn't make it up. Felt like I could, but listening to my guide, getting down safe. Well, that ends the adventure. I got up to about, let's see, that horn right there. Then my guide said, you got to turn around. He said, coming down is about as hard as going up. I was passed by my 20-year-old son. So now, I'm hoping he comes down that trail in about 4 hours, having made the summit. But this is Ideas of Work and Beyond. This comes to a close. Adventure travel for now. I look forward to being back in the studio interviewing some politician and a nice, warm, safe studio without cliffs. But anyways, there's the Matterhorn. Sun should be back in about 3 hours. Hopefully he made it to the top. Talk to you soon. Never a good sign when you see a rescue helicopter going up waiting for your son. So a little bit of drama just there. The lady that got taken off the mountain on a helicopter looks like she just broke her arm. But my guide was talking to me saying she needs to turn around. And the other guide was joking in Swiss, saying, oh, we're going to go 20 yards more and turn around. So, it's a dangerous mountain. Still waiting for my son to come down. It is a little concerning when someone's injured and they're selling a helicopter and your son's up on the mountain. But anyways, this mountain climbing stuff is fun. It's a challenge. I'm not sure I'm too thrilled about the danger aspect of it. I'll feel better when my son gets down. I'm sorry to see that Japanese lady was hurt, but I'm glad I turned back when my guide told me to. It's humbling. You think you're indestructible, but I'm safe.
Good.
You're a stud.
I need water.
Well, there you have it. That was a great adventure, attempting to summit the Matterhorn. I went with my 21-year-old son, and it was a really, really exciting time. I'm trying to get him on the phone right now. Jason, are you there?
Yeah.
So, the viewing public wants to know, we're killing about 3 minutes here.
Hold on, I gotta grab something.
Okay. Sorry, for those of you with children at home, you'll realize...
I'm just getting out of the shower.
Oh, okay, thanks for that mental image for our viewing audience. So, what was...
Are we on the air right now?
We are on the air, yes, that's right, Jason, we're on the air.
Is there any editing or anything?
No, there's no editing, you're live, so...
I can say whatever I want right now?
You can pretty much say whatever you want, but realize there's like...
Tens and tens of viewers?
Yeah, tens and tens of viewers are watching right now. Well, what was it like?
I don't have any material ready though.
That's okay. We want it.
Can we do this next week instead?
No, we can't. We got to go live right now. What was it like at the top of the Matterhorn, and how did it feel getting up there?
Well, Marty, I think I can parallel my experience on top of Matterhorn to a fine cigar. You had to really take a step back, sit down, and really soak it all in to enjoy it. You couldn't just get to the top, put your head between your knees because you were feeling sick and dehydrated, and then walk down. You had to go up there. You had to really soak in the Swiss Alps to understand. Of course, people who haven't been to the top of the Matterhorn wouldn't really fully grasp what I'm talking about. I'm going to try and paint you a picture.
Please do.
Now, the colors. Bright, bright greens and whites and blues. The sky and the mountains. That's what I saw. It was almost like two mirror images of beauty.
What your guide that you had, he seemed to be a little younger. What was his experience climbing the Matterhorn?
Well, he was 13 years old. We met him in Zermatt at a bar. He was coming down from some sort of overdose. I don't know, but we had hired him.
Jason, you're this is a highly educated viewing audience. They're not going to believe you were guided by a 13-year-old with a drug addiction problem. Seriously, what was your guide like, and what was it like at the top?
The guide?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
He was, I don't know, he was probably like 24, and he was a mountaineering guide.
And how often had he been to the top of the Matterhorn?
That was his second time going up. He had gone up the night before, and that was his second.
Wow. So what were your top 3 things that you remember from the trip overall? Was it a pretty good father-son bonding time, or did it become tedious after a while?
No. I think my time with my dad was probably the best any son could have with their father.
All right. Do you think you'd like to do some of this mountain climbing again in the future?
Of course.
All right. And then quickly describe our trip to Locarno afterwards.
Well, my father, who will remain nameless, decided that it would be a good idea to spend the last, let's say, 24 hours of the trip renting a car and driving 4 hours through the Swiss and Italian Alps to look for some estranged, relatives of his that he vaguely knew that were in a house, we think, and they ended up they weren't there. But it was a good experience because we came across the Locarno Film Festival and saw a video of the Crips in Holland.
That's right, a documentary about the Crips in Holland. As you described it, the street gang minor leagues. Well, listen, Jason, thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming along on the trip. And we're wrapping up the show right now. Thanks for being on, and good luck in college.
Can I get a shout-out?
Yeah, quick shout-out.
Shout-out to my family. Shout-out to my friends, kids in Norwich. Anyone else? I know I'm forgetting someone. My director, my producer, personal trainer and nutritionist. That's it.
All right. Thanks for those shout-outs. See you in a minute. So that was my son, Jason Heiser, ROTC Navy at Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont. And that was our trip. Join us next week on Ideas at Work and Beyond. We'll have the 5th Congressional District debate right here. And you won't want to miss it. So see you next week, Thursday night, 9 to 10 p.m. What else are you going to do? Join us at Ideas at Work and Beyond. Good night.